Hey everyone, it's Gracie. Welcome back to my channel. On my channel, we do a lot of painting and sketching and bullet journaling, so if you're interested in any of those things, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the little bell icon so that you never miss one of my videos. I post at least on a consistent beginning of the month basis with my bullet journal setups, but I also plan on doing a lot of new videos, including bullet journaling for productivity, bullet journaling tools, different techniques that I've kind of learned along the way. I've been bullet journaling for about a year now, so I really feel like I've really gotten into a look, a feel that I want my bullet journal to have that works for me. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to subscribe and of course leave a comment down below with any suggestions that you have for things that you would like to see in my bullet journaling videos. So sorry, I was kind of MIA for May and June. I had so much amazing and exciting things happening, but it definitely kept me from being able to sit down and do all that I wanted to do in my bullet journaling for those 2 months. I was able to get in there my productivity part of it, but as far as being able to sit down and really make it very artistic and do artwork, I really didn't get a chance to do that, unfortunately. For July, I really wanted to do a dark forest scene over a night sky. I was really wanting that nighttime look, very relaxing. And in fact, this is probably going to be the last month that I can fit in this specific bullet journal. So it just kind of seemed appropriate to do a nighttime theme. It made sense in my mind anyway. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting the groundwork for the scene basically. I'm using very, very wet Winsor & Newton gouache to set up the background, this kind of ombre effect that's going to be behind my forest scene. I'm doing a forest silhouette in front of a sunset or a night sky. And you can do this idea using any number of colors. I went with a light green to purple to kind of a bluish black at the top, but you could very easily do this in a hot pink to orange to black. You could incorporate, more of a deep blue. You could even go with almost like a red looking sunset in the background. Anything that you wanted to do, you could definitely implement here, but this is the look that I went for. So I used a wet on wet technique to just basically create and set that ombre groundwork. And then this is my very professional technique for adding stars to my sky. I used some wet gouache, get it on my paintbrush and just tap it with my finger. And that was my first layer of stars. After I set my groundwork of that ombre look, I went ahead and added black gouache near the bottom because I knew that was going to be where a lot of the shadowing of the trees was going to be. That's where the bottoms of the trees were going to be. So that's where there's going to be more shadow. So I'm just laying that down here at the bottom to give it a feeling of depth once I go in and I add the trees. I also went in and added black in the corners because I wanted it to give that illusion of being very, very dark. The higher up you got into the sky, I wanted it to look darker. So that's what I'm doing here. And this was a fun one. I mean, I'm really trying to practice not overthinking my painting, keeping it very loose, letting the paint kind of work for me, not overpainting. You cross that fine line where when you're painting something, you work it too much until it's just kind of a mess. I really wanted to give the paint the ability to do what it wanted to do using more of a wet on wet feel. Once I got done adding some more to the sky and adding some more stars, I went in with some, again, very wet white and then light purple gouache to give the feeling of clouds in the night sky. Added a little bit of shadowing with some black and some gray. I just felt like there needed to be something else in the sky, so I kind of put these little clouds up there kind of last minute. And again, I like to let the paint kind of work for me. I don't like to overthink it. So a lot of what you're seeing me do is just basically touch my paintbrush to the page, which is already wet with paint and water, and it really just kind of does its thing. You don't really have to work it a whole lot. And as you can see, I really like to keep my paint loose, and I like to I don't go in with a whole lot of forethought. I go in with a general idea of what I'm going for, and I just kind of have fun with it. If I feel like it needs more shadowing here, I'll let myself do that. If I feel like it needed some clouds like I did as I went, I let myself go ahead and improvise as I go. And at this point, I'm just starting to add in the trees. And of course, like I said, I add things as I go. So you'll see me go back here later and add a little bit more to this tree to kind of balance out the other side of the page when I add more trees. Something I do want to point out is if you're going to use this technique, if this is a look that you want to go for in your bullet journal cover page. What you basically want with these forest silhouette scenes is perfect imperfection. You don't want to make your trees look symmetrical exactly, because of course in real life natural trees are not symmetrical. They have branches that poke out in weird funny ways. They have bare branches. Some are taller, some are shorter. So don't make all your trees the same height. Don't even make them all the same density as far as the leaves and the branches. Like this guy's kind of scrawny there on the right, and then over here I added one that was a little bit more full. So play around with your trees and don't be afraid to make them all look very different, because that's how it would totally look in real life. The other thing I'm doing here is I'm keeping my gouache very wet. I'm treating my gouache very much like watercolor in this whole painting. So as you can see, as I'm working on the pine tree, some of the branches are a little bit darker, some of the branches are a little bit lighter, and that's fabulous because it gives you that illusion of depth and the light hitting at different places. And trees can be really easy if you just don't overwork it. Again, don't add solid black to it. Just, use the water, utilize the paint so that it gives that illusion of light and shadow. And the farther back in the forest I'm looking, the lighter I painted the trees. The trees that are closest to me, I kept darker because of course they're closer, they're more in focus, so to speak, if you're thinking about it in terms of photography or camera. And then the farther back I'm painting the trees, the shorter they are to show distance and the lighter they are to show less detail. Again, giving that illusion of distance. So as you can see here, I'm just going back and adding a little bit more shadowing, a little bit more leaves, just kind of, working it as I go, not trying very hard not to overthink it, which I don't know about you, but it's kind of a challenge to me. And then I went in and added some little branches that poke out in different places, again, just to give it a really natural, organic look. Here's another good example of distance. This is the tree that ended up looking like it was the farthest away, so it ended up being really, really light. And as you can see, that's a really, really effective thing, because if you start adding really dark trees that are farther away, it's really going to look like a jumbled up black mess by the time you're finished with it. So if this is a look you're going to want to try, just again, don't overthink it, but keep those trees that are farther away lighter, add more water to your paint, and that will allow you to achieve that look of distance. And this one was really, really, really fun, just because, again, trees aren't complicated. They don't include too much detail. Plus, with it being more of a nighttime scene, I didn't have to worry about a ton of greens and yellows and trying to achieve that look of depth with different colors. I could just use it with different darkness and lightness of my paint. And what I did here when it came to the trunks on trees like this are super easy. Don't make it so that you can see the trunk going down the full length of the tree. Insert little lines kind of here and there as where the trunk would be, letting it peek out through different parts of the tree instead of just seeing the solid trunk. Because in real life, you're not going to see the whole trunk. You're going to have leaves blocking some of it, but you'll be able to see it in different places. So when I added my trunks to my trees, I used a little bit darker black, but I didn't do solid lines. I just went up between some different branches. Once I was done with the pine trees, I decided it needed different kinds of trees. So I just kind of inserted these kind of twigs, stick-looking trees, just to give it a completely different texture and a different look. And I really ended up loving that because it really made it look more like a forest instead of a Christmas tree farm. It needed to have some variety in the trees, I felt like. And then it was time, of course, to add more stars because I had done the clouds, I did the sky, and everything was starting to get a little bit more dry. So it was a good time to go ahead and add in some more stars to really give it a finished look. And if you want that really night illusion that we're used to seeing on Instagram and Pinterest, add more stars to the top of the sky where the sky is darker, and still allow your stars to go down into, like in my case, the purple. Just make it so that the most of the stars are near the top in that black part. And then I ended up going back in with my black and adding a little bit more shadow at the bottom just to, again, give it a look of depth and thickness of the forest near the bottom. And here's what it ended up looking like. I was really super happy with it just because it was fun. I didn't have to overthink this one. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and set up my monthly spread for the month of July. I am not, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm not a big hand lettering person. So I like to keep my fonts very, think of it like the stick people of the calligraphy world. For those of us who really are not big hand letterers, these really simple kind of minimalistic fonts are effective because they look like you meant to be minimalistic when in reality, I just can't do calligraphy, at least not at this point. So I like to keep it just very simple as far as my lettering. And of course, I did my little calendar there just like I always do on the monthly spread. So I have a teeny tiny month at a glance. If you've seen my other videos, you know that in the past I've had a real problem messing up my calendar. So I was feeling very victorious at this moment with the fact that I was able to actually get my calendar down and get it down right. Every month I also do these boxes where I write out my July tasks, where I can have kind of my task list for the month, and I have my monthly, in this case, July favorites. And these are just fun to look back on, these favorites, to see kind of what I was into at any given month. And if you all have not used these zebra mild liners, I love these because unless you really, really put them on thick, they don't bleed through these pages. I use the Leuchtturm 1970, the Leuchtturm 1917 bullet journal. And so far, I mean, again, unless I really put the mild liner on thick, it doesn't bleed through, so it's nice. And it's an easy way to add more color and interest to your bullet journal spreads. The month at a glance is also where I track my Instagram followers and my YouTube subscribers, so I like to add that at the following page. Again, I'm not a hand letterer, so I just kind of keep my font very minimalistic, very, all caps, just simple. I don't overthink the lettering part of it at all. And then at this part of my bullet journal spread at the monthly glance, I like to give myself a little encouragement. So a lot of times I'll put a scripture verse here. In this case, this is actually part of the lyrics to a song that I really like. So I just put that in quotes so I have a little bit of encouragement every time I go back and look at my month at a glance. And then my camera actually cut off here, but I did go back and ended up making those lines look like sticks, and you'll see that later in the video, but it really was neat because it added to that forest theme I was going for. On that page that you see there, that is my brain dump page, and again, I had a near catastrophe with one of my Tombow brush pens. It bled through that page horribly. So you see me setting up my July habit tracker, but on the other side of the page is my brain dump page, and that's where I write anything, everything. And that's the same basic spread that I use in all my previous months. So if you want to see that in more detail, you can go back and look at one of my other videos. But the Tombow brush pen ended up bleeding through the page horribly, which is the first time it's ever happened. It just kind of had an emotional breakdown. I don't know what happened. So I ended up having to cover it up and try to fix it, and it was a hot mess. So that's why you didn't see me set up my brain dump page. But I just write anything, everything, and then do the habit tracker on the opposite page. Once my painting was dry, I just went in and added washi tape around the whole page so that as the month goes on, it doesn't wear on the edges of the paper. It just keeps it nice and without getting roughed up or anything. So that's what that looks like. And then next I set up my weekly log. This is a big key to me as far as productivity and using the bullet journal to stay productive. And I actually have a whole idea about a totally separate video I'm going to do about bullet journaling and productivity, but this is basically what works for me. Month at a glance, week at a glance, daily at a glance. And that's nothing unique to me by any means, but that is the key to my success with bullet journaling, is I have to be able to set monthly goals, figure out how to break that down into weekly goals, and then how to break that down into daily goals. So for my weekly log, I keep it really simple. I still have my month at a glance as far as a little mini calendar. I write out my weekly to-do list. I have my 2 lines a day where I can journal in just 2 lines for each day, and that allows me to journal without going crazy over it or just doing super long entries. And then down here, I just give myself a little bit of space to write just general notes. And if you guys haven't noticed, I have a real tendency to trip all over my tongue. I mean, the truth of the matter is I'm just not good at calligraphy, and voiceovers evidently aren't my strong suit either. But my feeling is I just want to talk to you guys and have fun with this. I don't want to overthink this and over edit this to the point where it's not reality, because the truth of the matter is there are times where my bullet journal is just a hot mess because of mistakes, and you just have fun with it. Bullet journaling is about having fun and having a system that actually works for you and helps you to be productive in your daily life. So I'm just going to keep it real casual on this channel. I want to relate to you all. I want to laugh with you all and have fun with you all. And if that means laughing at myself while I trip all over myself on my voiceover, then that's totally fine. And this is my daily log. Very simple. It's just basically breaking each day down. And what I do is I take those weekly goals and I figure out what day of the week I want to do those on. Again, nothing new, nothing overly complicated, but super, super effective. If you're thinking about bullet journaling and you're wondering to yourself if this is actually as productive as people make it seem to be, let me just assure you, I have tried planners, I have tried different methods of staying organized, sticky notes, to-do list, etc., and it's never worked for me. Bullet journaling has literally changed it all. So I am super excited and I'm thrilled with how my July spread turned out. I just think it turned out to be really simple, really easy, and I had a lot of fun with it. And the bottom line is that's what it's all about. So thank you all so much for stopping by my channel and watching today. I hope you found this information helpful. And if you haven't already, again, be sure to subscribe, hit the little bell icon down below to be notified every time I post a new video. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at the link at the end of this video, and you can also feel free to check out my blog for some more art and bullet journaling inspiration. Thank you all again so much for stopping by, and I will see you again next time. Bye!